Monday night edition of the Crash the Pond podcast. Welcome back, everyone. The season is I shouldn't say slowly, it's fast approaching. We're almost there. The Ducks have played a preseason game already, which is kind of mind boggling to think about. We've got a better feel for how the Ducks team will look like this year and kind of what the line combinations will be. Today's show will be a little different. We will give you our notes and impressions so far on training camp. And then we are going to give you a little bit of a preview of what we do on our bonus episodes, but we're going to do a ranking. We're going to do our rankings / predictions for the Pacific Division. So you will also, through that, get an idea of where we think the Ducks will finish this year. So that should be interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to just peel back the curtain on how we got to this point?
I think that we were, let me try to map back. Oh, yeah. And we get to throw CJ under the bus, which is great.
Exactly. Loads of fun.
Yeah. So our good friend CJ, who appears in this podcast every now and again, quote tweeted someone saying that the Kings make the playoffs as a prediction for him. It was give me your bonkers prediction. This is something Jay Fresh tweeted out. He said, give me your bonkers prediction for the 2021-22 season. Someone quote tweeted that and said Kings make the playoffs, and then CJ quote tweeted that, which I'm assuming means an endorsement, and said I have been saying. So as soon as I saw that, as we were prepping for the show, I was like, I don't buy it. I think we've probably said it on this show that the Kings, there's some hype around them, and they're gonna be maybe better than what they've been in the last couple of years, but probably not by that much. And so we just kind of went on this tangent about how the division's gonna shake out, and we just realized, why don't we just do this on the podcast? So
yeah, I mean, we commended their offseason because they had a good offseason and are starting the transition to, I think, try to be competitive. But I think now, I think within the moment, maybe I was high on their moves, but now that we're a little bit removed and kind of have had time to go back and look at the rosters, I just don't buy it. Like you and I were saying, and luckily Jay Fresh came through clutch for both of us, and we both have access to the War roster builder. And the Kings roster per him is 25th in the league, which seems about right.
Yeah, I mean, they have interesting pieces up front. They added Philip Deneau, which is huge for their center depth. Quentin Byfield, there's a decent chance he takes a big step this year, kind of like Trevor Zegras. So there's pieces there, but then you look on the wings, you look on the blue line, and even in net, I mean, with Cal Peterson and Jonathan Quick, we don't know exactly what that tandem will look like. So we'll get into this more later, but there's a lot of reason to maybe press pause on the Kings hype.
And I think there's, I don't know if it's greater than 50%. For me, it's probably 40%, where there's a pretty high chance that I think the Ducks could be better than the Kings. You think a 30% chance, but I don't think it's a set in stone thing that the Kings are locked into being better, because you look at the roster and they have maybe better high-end pieces in Kopitar and Dano than the Ducks do as of right now. But I don't think you can necessarily say they have more NHL talent than the Ducks overall if you look at their roster from top to bottom. And I think that's maybe where it falls off for me with the prediction of them being in the playoffs is their defense is bad. And so I think there's a realistic chance the Ducks could finish above them, which I think would be an interesting storyline to follow throughout all this.
Yeah, should we just get into the ranking? Because now we're just, or should we talk about the preseason first, the stuff that's actually happening?
Your call. I'm letting you drive this bus.
Okay, well, let's just get into our ranking.
Okay.
We've been talking about this, so we might as well get into it. And don't worry, folks, we will talk about the preseason. To be honest with you, I mean, just to give you a quick hit on that, we don't really know a whole lot more today than we did last week about how this team is going to shape up. I mean, a couple things have developed. We've seen Dallas Eakins go to a line of Ryan Getzlaf, Sonny Milano, Troy Terry, and that seems to be a trend. That seems to be something that may hold.
Although very quickly within the game, after about one period, he broke them up and put Troy Terry, I believe it was Bo Grew and Buddy Robinson. What was the full line that ended up being the one that Troy Terry ended up on? Sorry, Sam Carrick and Buddy Robinson, not Bo Grew. And I believe it was Vinny Lettieri got put on the line with Getzlaf and Milano.
What are the chances he makes the team?
Also,
Jake?
wait, can we just quickly shout out the fact that I was at the game and I finally got to see Cody Cram play in person. And what do you know happens?
Gordie Howe hat trick.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really the highlight of the preseason so
And
far for
you
the
know
Ducks.
who set up his goal, right? It was a
It was Troy Terry.
amazing pass by Troy Terry, cross-ice feed, finds him in front of the net. And then, Cody Curran uses that big booming shot in front of the net to go top down.
Yeah. And I mean, what was impressive about that play for Terry was that it wasn't really, I mean, the pass was nice, but it was how he got there because he kind of fumbled the puck a little bit in the middle of the ice and then gathered himself, curled back around and just found a seam. So, yeah, but I'm still it's too early, right? Like the group, there haven't been any cuts. The groups are still, there's no crossover between the groups yet. So, certain guys look good. I think Troy Terry looks solid. Maybe, I don't know. People were saying he looked bad in the first period yesterday.
My brief impression from being at the game, and I know we just said we were going to do the rankings. Now we're doing this,
I guess,
but this is fine. But the first period, he looked like he was fighting the puck a little bit. And then kind of after that, it seemed like he settled in the second and third periods and really found his game. And the one thing that I thought was really impressive was the goal that he scored, because Volkov takes a shot, goes off the post. Terry's the one that follows up in front of the net, and basically people may not think that he's a guy that would go to the front of the net and find a puck in a scrum, and that's what he did, and he put it in the back of the net to score. And that's something that the Ducks sorely missed on the power play throughout the entirety of last year, and the fact that Terry was the guy that would go and do that, I think, was impressive to me. Yeah,
and I mean, Alexander Volkov scored a goal, nice redirect. But yeah, I just think right now there's not a ton, a ton to work with.
And it's not like it was the Sharks' A game either, or A team either.
They were split squad.
Yeah, so it's hard to have any takeaways. I think maybe if you want to have any, it was just nice to have people back in Honda Center.
Wow. So if you look, sorry, I'm like looking at the odds right now for the season of teams making the playoffs.
All over the place.
I'm still thinking about the Kings, Jake. Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see people back in there. Correct. And I think that the way that they've set it up with the requirements to actually get in,
yes.
I think that they're making they have to follow the guidelines, but it doesn't feel just completely reckless either, which is
correct.
Nice.
And it felt comfortable at the game yesterday. And granted, it's also because there weren't that many people there, which helped. But still, it was nice to be back at the arena. One nice little thing, and this is a completely non-hockey related thing actually, but the Ducks, I guess, are now being sponsored by Brewery X, which is a local. I think they're a smaller brewery in Anaheim, and their logo is right in front of the home bench, and the club level had their beer. I was impressed.
Wow. Wow. Interesting.
Yes, Zen is 8. This bus is swerving all over the road. It's Mai Tai time.
It's really everywhere. Okay, well, so that'll be pretty much all we have for the training camp preseason. I just want to point out, we're getting into the rankings now, that the Devils and the Kings have the same odds to make the playoffs on Bovada. Plus 5,000.
Give me the Devils over the Kings.
Yeah. How is that even possible? So anyway.
Devils signed Dougie Hamilton this offseason to have Jack Hughes playing and Nico Hischier.
I mean, the Devils play in a much more difficult division, so there is that to consider. But still, their roster is a lot better, in my opinion, than the Kings. So let's just do this thing. So top to bottom, I think top to bottom is the way to go.
Top to bottom, let's do it.
So who is your team that you have finishing last in the Pacific Division?
We're doing it that way.
Oh, sorry. Bottom to top. Why did I say top?
Yeah.
Bottom to top. God. Okay.
It pains me, but I think it is the Ducks.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with the Ducks that I think is very tough is that I do think the range of results is pretty wide. I think the Ducks could end up being a mid 80 point team. I think they could also end up being a mid 60 point team. And it really depends partially on John Gibson. If John Gibson is able to be the goalie that essentially an above replacement or above expected level goalie like he has in the past, that helps out significantly. If he's just expectation or slightly below, that could get him in the 60 range. Also, where does Trevor Zegras go to? Essentially there's a whole lot of development within these guys where the range of results is huge. I think more likely than not, the results aren't going to be there this year. I think there will be, for Ducks fans as a positive, there will be a positive process in place. And I think we're going to see things start going their way in terms of 5-on-5 play. I think you're going to have some exciting moments with Trevor Zegras on the ice, with Troy Terry, with Max Comtois, with those guys on the ice. But I think there are going to be some drawbacks. I think that the defense has taken a bit of a step back with their aging. And I think the other issue is that with the fact that the Ducks have said they fully embraced the rebuild, I think that they're going to move guys out, and I think that's going to hurt their chances within the points. I think Adam Henrique is a very good hockey player, and even though people for some reason don't view him that way anymore, he should be moved out, and when he is, that is a negative impact on the Ducks roster. Same thing if Rickard Rakell, like I've said, he should be moved. Negative impact on the roster now if he's moved. And so I think all those things combined get me to this point where I think the Ducks are starting to take steps in the right direction, but they're still at the bottom of the division.
Yeah, I agree with that. So that they are my 8th place team as well in the Pacific. And yeah, that's the thing is the case that we've been making for the Ducks to make the playoffs the last 3 years has revolved around some version of the veterans bouncing back, the defense playing well up to its caliber, and John Gibson being John Gibson. And that has pretty much not happened almost categorically. Especially the last couple of years. Now, like you just said, there is a possibility that John Gibson returns to form, that he kind of gets back, even doesn't have to be great, just better than what he was last year, and that puts the Ducks in a better spot. If Trevor Zegras takes a massive step forward, which I think he will this year, there's a possibility that the Ducks finish above this. I think that they could have I'm not going to say a playoff run, but they could at least be a team that's interesting to follow.
I think they could end up anywhere between 5 and 8. I think those are all realistic options, with 8 being more likely than 5.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there's a definite case that they can climb up if everything breaks right. The talent is there on this roster, but that's the very optimistic view.
I mean, how much of this partially is both you and I having predicted them to finish in the 5-6 range the last couple of years and being burned by it, so now we're going with maybe a reality check?
Yes, I mean, kind of. It's just the problem with the Ducks fundamentally to me is the forward group in terms of trying to say that they'll make the playoffs. If you look at their top 6, yeah, it's interesting. You got Milano, Getzlaf, Terry, that could be a line. Comtois, Zegras, Rakell as a line. That's an interesting top 6 to me. It's not an elite top 6, but that can generate some offense. It's the bottom 6 to me where things can really drop off. I mean, Lundestrom, Steele, Jones, Delorier, Henrique, Grant, that doesn't add up to that much.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And that's the problem for the Ducks when you're going against even a team like LA, who neither of us are that high on, but they still at least have a little more depth than that.
Does your opinion change at all? And I think maybe this is the caveat to add here, that we're at this point that roster cuts haven't been made. We don't know where this roster's going. Would your opinion change at all if somehow the Ducks rolled out centers, or their 4 centers they play are Zegras, Getzlaf, McTavish, Lundestrom?
The thing is, we don't know what McTavish will be like as a rookie.
But he has to be an improvement on both Sam Steele and Derek Grant. And I think a pretty significant one even.
Yeah, but if you think about that, how high of a bar is that, really? I'll answer for you. It's not. It's not a high bar.
But that still is an improvement.
It is. If he were better than those two, then that would help the Ducks out. I mean, Sam Steele isn't Derek Grant terrible if you look at his numbers. He's what, 30th percentile basically in terms of 5-on-5 contribution.
Yeah.
So he's below replacement level, but he's also not at the very bottom either. I guess with McTavish, I just don't know what to expect. I've watched him play. I've seen him up close. I think he's got NHL tools, and he could come in and be a contributor. But how that actually shakes out against NHL competition, that's a different story. So, yeah, you could take that view and say, well, the Ducks have some guys in the offing, even a Bo Gru, who I think that they want these guys to make the team, or at least they'd be happy if they made the team. And if that were to happen, maybe that raises this team's floor, and then you can feel more confident about projecting them to finish at least above 8th, right?
7th, 5th.
Right. And so, yeah, like I said, for me, they're not a lock to finish 8th. It's just if you're asking me to write it down right now and to handicap everyone else, I just think that there's too much going against them to really feel confident.
I'm basically just trying to provide some ray of sunshine for people out there listening to this to not get, I guess, too down with us predicting the 8th, that there are positives to be had. And I think there are adjustments that can be made that can be helpful. But I think there is some importance in addressing kind of the reality of the situation.
Oh, totally. And look, if you're a Ducks fan, I still don't think that if you hear us project them to finish last in the division, like you shouldn't look at that as, oh, well, then I guess I'm just not watching this year. This is still going to be an interesting team to follow because we know that the playoffs aren't the goal for them anyway. So it's more about the development of the players on the team, the younger players, what they end up doing with the veterans. Are they going to trade them? Are they going to re-sign some of them? Will John Gibson bounce back? There's still plenty of reasons to follow this team and to be intrigued by them. But in terms of making the playoffs, that's just a different conversation. Totally.
Yep. Agreed.
So I think we've covered the Ducks. I think they're the team we're going to give the most time to in our ranking here.
Yes.
Okay. So who do you have at 7?
7, I have the LA Kings.
Same.
Yeah. I mean, here's the issue with the Kings. I don't think their roster is that much different than the Ducks. I mean, they have Kopitar and Dano, like we said, but outside of that, is Arvidsson better than Raquel? Doubtful.
I think they're neck and neck.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I think Henrique's potentially one of the best forwards on the Ducks, and I think he's better than any of the other Kings forwards, basically.
Yeah, I think the difference between these two, though, is that, again, it's the bottom 6. They just have a better bottom 6.
They do, but I also think they have a worse defense.
Yeah, well, yes and no. The Ducks
Drew Doughty's bad. Like, Drew Doughty's actually bad.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Ducks blue line, well, first off, just can't stay healthy.
True.
You're almost guaranteed at this point to not get a full season of Manson and Lindholm. And then after that, you're banking on Jamie Drysdale taking a massive step forward if you compare it to his results last year. He would have to be much, much better to get to even like replacement level for this season. And that's not a commentary on where he projects long term, but just for the current moment in time. Really, the only locks, I think, to be solid contributors when you factor in health are Fowler and Shattenkirk. I mean, when Lindholm's in the lineup, he's still great. But
I think that's
he's going to miss time.
If Lindholm is healthy, he's the best defenseman on both teams by a mile.
Sure, but the Ducks blue line has a lot of question marks as
Agreed.
well to me.
But like, here are the 8 defenseman cap friendly lists on the Kings blue line. It's Drew Doughty, Alex Edler, Olli Mata, Matt Roy, Sean Walker, Mikey Anderson, Tobias Bjornfoot, and Christian Wolanin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not this great defense, especially with Alex Edler's still a solid player, but he's 35. Olli Mata's not that great. Drew Doughty, like I said, really has fallen off a cliff. And so that's basically why I have them 7th. I think that they're not going to be as good as everyone thinks they're going to be. I think that maybe I think the positive for them is, I mean, this is something people may forget. They were worse than the Ducks at 5-on-5 in terms of expected goals for percentage last season. They were at 44%. The Ducks were at 45%. I think that's not going to be the case this upcoming season because of adding a Philip Deneau will help with that.
Mm-hmm.
But how significantly will it help? I don't think he takes them from being a 44% team to over 50. I think maybe they bump up to 47%.
Well, what's funny is if you look at the cumulative WAR, so when you look at Jay Fresh's roster builder, the Bjornfoot Roy pairing actually adds up to more than a Fowler Manson pairing right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, I don't think they're. It's funny now. I'm getting pushback for saying the Kings are going to be terrible, which probably was not a bright move on my part.
Yeah,
put that on Twitter.
Yeah,
I don't think the Kings are not going to be terrible. I guess I should be very clear. I don't think they're going to be awful. I just think it's too early to be this high on them. They have interesting pieces. I just feel like it adds up to a mediocre team, like an interesting mediocre team. And yeah, they do have some room to shoot, to climb the standings because of their talent, because of younger guys taking steps forward. They do also have goaltending, which can help, but it's just,
do they? Do you trust Cal Peterson?
Well, Cal Peterson was great last year.
No,
it's how many games is he going to play is the question.
And how many games are you going to have subpar Jonathan Quick?
That's the problem for them. The Kings are interesting. They have good players. I guess I'm skeptical. Agreed. Is all I'm saying. Agreed. Like there's enough reason for skepticism.
Agreed.
But again, I do want to add that this range of teams, they can move around quite a bit.
Yeah.
these teams are going to be competing for these last spots. So yeah, Kings at 7th. Could easily see them higher. Like I said with the Ducks, could also see them being better. But there's just a lot of things that have to happen.
Yep.
For them to get there.
Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about number 6. Who do you have at number 6?
I have the Vancouver Canucks.
Interesting. I have the San Jose Sharks.
That also interesting. You want to go on the Sharks first, or have me go on the Canucks?
I'll talk about the Sharks.
Go for it.
I think that the Sharks. Well, first off, we don't know when Evander Kane's coming back, which is.
Or I mean, if he's coming back.
If he's coming back at all. And he is their best forward, or at least one of their very best forwards. He was their best forward last season. So that's a big problem. And yeah, they went out and basically got a third line, getting Bonino and Cogliano. Like they have NHL players. They have Timo Meier, Couture, LeBanc, right? They have guys who can play in the top of the lineup, but I'm just not really sold on their depth up front. I guess they could be okay. And then their blue line is a total wild card. I mean, what are you going to get? From Burns, Karlsson, Vlasic? I think Vlasic is almost a shoo-in to not be great at this point. And then Burns, Karlsson, right? You could go either way. They did upgrade a net for Martin Jones, which not a high bar, but they did do that. So I think that there's, at least with the Sharks, I think there's enough pieces to where they could outshine the Kings. But the more I talk about it, the more I think the Kings could be better than the Sharks. But that's kind of the range for me for this Sharks team.
So I have the Sharks 6th, actually. So in this range, just above this, I think that there's a chance.
No, we are on 6 right now.
No.
You mean 5th?
No. So I had the Canucks 7th.
Oh, well, then I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Did you have the Sharks 7th?
Hold on. I had the Ducks 8th.
Yes.
There's 8 teams in this division.
There are 8 teams in this division, Felix.
Oh, boy. This is okay. I had Ducks 8.
Did you forget about the Canucks?
No, I didn't, actually.
Okay.
I had Ducks 8th, Kings 7th.
Okay.
San Jose is my 6th. Does that all add up?
Yeah. Sorry. I was one off. That was my fault. I was looking at
I was right.
I was looking at my rows in Excel, and because the first row is the divisions, it was starting at 9. My fault. So yeah, I have the Canucks at 6 and the Sharks at 5. And so I mean, the reason why I have the Sharks at 5 while we're talking about them is I think that there's a chance, because I think that they have some better forward talent than some other teams, some better goal scorers. Now, granted, part of it also relies on Evander Kane coming back and playing somewhat, and who knows whatever ends up happening there. But Logan Couture should be okay, or should be solid. Tomas Hertl, Timo Meier, these are all talented players at forward. The defense is a little bit of a question mark, obviously, but they still have the talent back there. And I think really what I'm banking on is the fact that they've basically gone from Martin Jones to James Reimer and Aiden Hill, which is a significant upgrade. And that's not necessarily saying that James Reimer and Aiden Hill are that fantastic. It's saying that Martin Jones was that poor. And so I think that one upgrade is going to kind of help them out a lot, because at 5-on-5, they actually weren't that bad last year. They were, let me see, they were 18th in the league. They were almost at 50%. They were at 49.3%. So at 5-on-5, they actually weren't that bad of a team. And so if they could just get a save, I think that there's a high likelihood of them actually surprising people and them being the team that could even end up pushing for a playoff like teams think the Kings will.
Yeah, I just think that for this Sharks team, the bottom could fall out again.
Oh, it 100% could.
There's a massive disaster potential for that.
This is a team that I'm looking at, and if I'm looking at 5-on-5 numbers from last year, now granted the Kings have added some players, and that kind of does make a difference.
And the Sharks have lost Evander Kane.
Yeah, but they've also added Bonino and Cogliano to their third line, which I think will help them.
Sure. Yeah, I have them 6th.
Okay,
I feel fair. Like I can't. So
no,
that's
fair.
I have Vancouver 5th.
So I have Vancouver 6th. The main issue I have with the Canucks is, first off, when do Pettersson and Hughes sign?
Yeah. Well, assuming they sign before the season starts.
That's not a guarantee, and if they don't, they are in real rush.
They're in trouble. They're in trouble, but they have better depth than the Kings and the Sharks, though. I think up front. They have slightly better depth.
Maybe up front. I don't know on the blue line if they do. Even with Karlsson and Burns and Vlasic being as old as they are, I still would probably take that blue line over the Canucks blue line without Quinn Hughes.
No, I agree with that. I think that the Canucks blue line could, and also Quinn Hughes wasn't amazing last year. Like, we don't necessarily know. But I think for me, what sells me on the Canucks being better than the Sharks is when they have their full roster, they're just far more talented up front. They're far more talented.
Yeah, I think adding Elias Pettersson's a big plus there.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a necessity.
Yeah,
like if they don't have Elias Pettersson, just kind of scratch everything I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but not completely. Bo Horvat, Jason Dickinson are good depth centers.
This is still a team that finished in the basement last year with this same exact roster. And like, granted, they were horrible at 5-on-5, 44.2%. Now, we probably should add the caveat there that their entire team got COVID horribly last season, which definitely probably impacted them down the stretch. That had a big negative impact on their numbers.
Yeah, but their blue line doesn't look great. But they are solid in net. Demko Halak is a nice tandem.
Halak's a good pickup.
So yeah, I feel more comfortable with them being above the Sharks.
That's fair.
So at number 4, I feel like our top 4 will be the exact same.
Potentially.
Well, who's your 4?
Seattle.
Same.
Yeah. Seattle's a team where I legit, when I first had this done like a day or two ago, so to peel the curtain back slightly for everyone, Felix and I are going to do a Patreon episode tomorrow where we're going to do the full all the divisions throughout the league. And so I did this a couple days ago and prepped for that, and we've just decided that we're going to do one of them for free on this episode. I had the Kraken lower, and the thing that kind of, honestly, as you and I were talking about this during kind of the pre-show, it was looking at their defense, and because I was mainly looking at their forwards when I kind of put together that where they were at, and I think I had them like 7th or 6th, something in that range, based upon their forwards. But when you look at their defense, I mean, Vince Dunn, Adam Larson, Mark Giordano, Jamie Alexiak, Carson Soucy, Hayden Fleury, like that's a really solid defense, and that will be the backbone for their team next season.
Yeah. I think that their blue, like the team that they built is going to be competitive. It's going to be better than maybe some people expect. I don't think that they're going to be that good. All that being said, like I don't think they're going to get in the wild card. I think that's going to be 2 central teams, but they're going to be interesting. They have really good goalies, right? So they're going to hang around. If you told me that, for example, I don't know, like who could you see finishing ahead of them in the teams we just talked about?
All of them.
The Ducks above Seattle?
I
really?
could see it.
Yeah, I guess maybe. I don't know.
Like if the issue is what is it? Dave Haxtell. Dave Haxtell he did not have a good run in Philadelphia. And so if he's like, the thing with Seattle that's tough for me is that there was all the hype around them about being an analytic franchise, that this is what they are, yet none of the decisions that they've necessarily made back that up. And so I really wonder how as a team they're going to be playing. And so, I mean, we'll see. There is the potential that they finish at 4th. Maybe they jump into 3rd. But I think that it's kind of weirdly like the Ducks, where it's such an unknown, where they could finish as low as 8th.
That's true. And like the thing is, their forward depth is not anything to write home about. Like that's really where they dropped the ball to me. Well, they basically made a choice, it seems.
Yeah. DB Lowry 3507 in the Twitch chat, by the way, I think it's After Your Heart, saying that I just can't trust Philip Fraudbauer.
Wait, hold on. I feel like I pay attention reasonably to Oh, I got it.
That took you a while.
That went right over my head. Okay. Philip Fraudbauer. Ouch. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Philip Grubauer is what he's referring to, for those who are like me and took forever to get it.
Wow.
I actually do trust him. I trust that even if he goes and maybe has a bit of regression, Chris Driedger is there to pick up the slack. So then again, trying to predict goaltending year over year seems to be a waste of time.
Yeah.
So, hey, and don't forget Hayden Fleury is on this team. Don't forget that.
Not are we going to, but I feel like it's going to be real interesting to see how quickly a guy like a Sam Steele gets moved on from the Ducks, and then figuring out how smart of a decision it was to protect him over a Hayden Fleury. Because at the end of the day, that's what it came down to. The Ducks wanted to protect both Sam Steele and Max Jones over Hayden Fleury.
I mean, I think you could make that point about Max Jones as well.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the Ducks' view is that they have more in the pipeline on the blue line, And so they still are holding out hope that one of their young forwards, like they kind of need that to work out more than they needed Hayden Fleury to work out.
Yeah.
But it's still, yeah. I mean, I am not the biggest optimist on Sam Steele going into the season or Max Jones. But then again, like that's still holding on to the idea that they're going to become way more than what they currently are.
Yeah.
I think they kind of are what they are at this point, which is like depth guys.
Yep.
Just okay depth guys, right?
Yeah.
So I think once you remove the expectations looking at those guys, it becomes a lot less dramatic. But yeah, Kraken at 4 to me, and that's not saying that they're going to be this great team. I just think you look at the teams below them, and they've actually built a decent back end. I mean, they've really built from the net out, and that should translate.
Yep. And so before we get into the top 3, because I know you're all probably wondering what the order of the top 3 will be, I think it's time to have a word from our sponsor. So this episode is brought to you by Green Chef. Green Chef has a meal plan for every healthy lifestyle, from keto to paleo to plant-powered diets, or even if you just want to have delicious but balanced dishes. Their expert chefs curate every recipe with over 30 meal choices every week, and the flexibility to switch plans, you'll never have to sacrifice taste for nutrition. You can enjoy restaurant-quality dishes in the comfort of your own home. You can enjoy new and nutritious recipes each week that are perfect for you and the whole family. Take homemade, plant-based meals to the next level with Green Chef's plant-powered options. Or want to watch your carb intake? Their keto and paleo options will give you premium proteins and vital veggies you need to conquer the day. And with pre-portioned, easy-to-follow recipes delivered right to you, eating well has never been simpler. Never worry about having to plan or shop for dinner again. So, Felix, I'm just kind of looking at the Green Chef menu, and I've mentioned this many times. One of the nicest things is you get the recipes from them. They give you a nice card that you can basically keep and follow for a long time. And so if you want to recreate the recipe, not only are they sending you everything to make it, they also give you the cards to be able to make it at a later date. But I'm just looking at their menu. So for me, I personally, when I've done Green Chef, I do the balanced living option. And so they currently have on their website, how good does this sound? Bulgogi burgers.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
Like that just absolutely looks fantastic. Truffled mushroom flatbreads, maple miso glazed mushrooms if you're looking for a veggie option. Salmon with creamy chimichurri. Their chimichurri sauce is fantastic. Sausages and mashed acorn squash. Middle Eastern beef bowls. And these are all in addition to, and I will show the binder yet again of the meals, but it's great. I mean, peanut chicken with udon noodles. There it is. And you can see, really easy to follow. They send you everything in a bag. It's a freezer bag also. So if you want to be able to get the meals, if they deliver it to your door when you're out and about, they can be stored there for a while. And it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's so good.
Yep. So if you want to check them out, go to greenchef.com/CTP100. So that's CTP like Crash the Pond, and use the code CTP100 to get $100 off, including free shipping. So once again, go to greenchef.com/CTP100 and use the code CTP100 and to get $100 off, including free shipping. So yeah, go check them out. It is delicious. Cuban chicken. There's just so many great options for a ton of different lifestyles and dietary choices. Highly, highly recommend it.
Agreed. All right. So
top 3.
I know everyone's probably been waiting for the order.
Yeah,
here.
I'm sure that there's a lot of I guess debate going on about who's going to be in our top 3, right? And what the order is going to be. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of drama here, folks. Number 3 for me, Edmonton Oilers. I mean, I'll just say my top 3. I think we can kind of breeze through this. Edmonton, Calgary, Vegas. Vegas was always number 1 for me for obvious reasons. They're the best team in this division on paper. Calgary, I think people are, I don't want to say sleeping on, because I feel like most people seem to understand that Calgary is okay, but I think that they're better. They're slightly better than that. And I think for them in this division, that's going to carry them. I don't love their blue line all that much. I will say that, but their forward group, again, it's kind of the same story with Calgary. They have a really nice top end forward talent. And that's, I think in this division that gets you places. And also maybe Jacob Markstrom will revitalize himself this year, but they're number 2 for me.
Yeah. So I've got the Flames, the Oilers, the Golden Knights. So I have the Flames third, Oilers second, Golden Knight first. So
Yeah, and I could definitely see Oilers and Flames flip flopping.
yeah.
I mean, both teams are flawed in their own ways.
Yeah, and here's the thing with the Flames. I actually think a lot of people are probably sleeping on them this year because of the fact that they missed the playoffs last year. They fired their head coach, so they've got a new head coach, or they fired their head coach midseason, had Daryl Sutter come in. But if you look at their 5-on-5 numbers, I mean, they were 8th in the league at 53.37% expected goals for percentage. And so the main issue for them was Jacob Markstrom fell off a cliff, which, granted, was a little bit predictable. And I think that I remember even when they signed him, I thought that was a bad deal to sign him to. But if he can just recover and become somewhat of what he was when he was in Vancouver, then they're a formidable opponent. And Johnny Gaudreau is still a great hockey player. Sean Monahan's still good. Matthew Tkachuk is insanely good. Like, if you're looking at the talent, if you're looking at the talent on rosters, they have one of the most talented rosters within the Pacific Division, and potentially even more talented than Vegas, potentially, in terms of just high-end talent on the roster.
Well, Andrew Mangiapane is becoming one of those underrated guys who I think people don't talk about enough. So he's slept on as well. So better than Vegas, though, I think that's too far.
No, I'm just saying their talent their high-end talent is potentially better than Vegas. Like Monahan, Gaudreau, Tkachuk. I think that you could hold up that first line with kind of any other first line in the division.
Yeah, if you're talking, well, except for one, I would say. The one that has Connor McDavid on it is probably the one.
That's true. Sorry, I should probably back that off. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah,
my apologies.
But for Vegas, you can make that case if you're talking about the forward group. So yeah, I have Edmonton below Calgary, mostly because the comments I made about the Flames blue line, it's even worse for the Oilers. Like their blue line's just awful. I don't know how else to say that. Like Darnell Nurse is fine. But then after that, Tyson Barrie is basically a power play specialist. You've got a Duncan Keith, Cody Ceci pairing, Chris Russell, Evan Bouchard. Evan Bouchard could be fine, but the Oilers is going to be the same story. They're going to need goaltending. They're going to need their power play to be great, which it will be when you've got McDavid and Draisaitl out there. They've got the top-end talent. And I think that alone, McDavid and Draisaitl are just so good that that's going to carry them to a top 3 finish in this division. Like they're just going to feast on the likes of the Sharks, Kings, Ducks, Canucks. They might struggle in matchups with Seattle because of the ways that Seattle may end up playing and the way their roster is constructed. But until someone finds a way to stop Connor McDavid consistently, I'm just assuming that this team is going to offense their way to the top 3.
And that's why I have them second. Is I just think that they have enough firepower where they're going to be able to outscore their problems. Sure, their defense is bad. Sure, goaltending is
really bad. It's really bad.
But when you have Connor McDavid playing at the pace that he was playing at last year, and I think he's going to be able to continue to play at that pace, playing in the Pacific Division. Like, he's just going to be on a whole nother level. Like, it's going to be absolutely insane. And so, yeah. I mean, Raquel's goatee about the Flames saying, LOL, Monahan has fallen off. Remember, the Flames are a Sutter team now. I mean, the thing with Sutter is, I mean, he gets teams to play great at 5-on-5, and that really works out well at certain points of time. I mean, there's obviously flaws to the low event style, but I think that could work out well for them.
Yeah, and Monahan's definitely declined. There's no question about that, but he's still a guy that on a line with better players around him, I guess. I mean, he's still a top 6 guy. Mm-hmm. So it's not crazy.
Yeah, he's the third out of the 3 I mentioned. It's more so Gaudreau and Tkachuk.
Oh, he's a distant third, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make the case Mangiapane is better than Monahan right now.
That's fair.
But I mean, actually that like is definitely true that Mangiapane is better than Monahan. But if you look at the Flames versus the Oilers, I think the Flames are more balanced. They do have very strong forwards. It's just that trump card. I guess that's why you might pick Edmonton over Calgary. I just have Calgary because I like their roster balance a lot better.
Yep.
And then Vegas at the top. I mean, we don't need to talk about that too much, but they're a team that was in the conference final last year. They kind of ran over their division that they were in. Granted, weird COVID divisions, but they've got the elite talent at pretty much every position. I mean, Robin Leonard's, I guess, a downgrade from Marc-Andre Fleury, but they're going to finish number 1. So yeah, that's the preview. I think that does it. So any final thoughts on the Ducks though in this division? We should finish with some Ducks optimism.
I think the optimism is that it's a wide open division. I think that realistically, even though you and I are both high on the Flames and the Oilers, I don't think that they're locked in as being these juggernauts. I think there's really only one true power in this division. And so I think if you're looking at it, these are all teams that the Ducks are going to be playing, 4 or 5 times a year? I think is where it ends up at. I think that they have a chance to compete against every single one of these teams besides. And I think even against Vegas, they have a chance to be in games against them. They did a little bit last year. And so I think that every team is flawed in their own ways. So if you're looking at it from the sense of the Ducks are going to be playing all these teams the most out of any division in the league, how are they going to fare? I think that they have a chance to really play some fun, entertaining style. And I think, honestly, I'm most excited to see how the Ducks play against Connor McDavid, because picture Trevor Zegras out there against Connor McDavid.
Well, it won't be Trevor Zegras. I can promise you that. I mean, it's going to be Derek Grant.
Oh,
matchup center Derek Grant. Okay, here's a fun hypothetical. Where do you think the Ducks? What's the highest that the Ducks could finish in this division?
5.
Really?
I said that
5.
earlier.
Oh, so no consideration for 4th.
I don't think I don't think they can get up to 4th because I think they're going to move guys out.
I could see if you told me that the Ducks finished better than the Sharks, Kings, and Canucks, I wouldn't be just completely falling out of my chair, because I think for all 3 of those teams, the Canucks, Sharks, Kings, there's definite potential for their seasons to go way sideways. I think the Kings are the safest out of the 3 teams that the Ducks could leapfrog. The problem with that prediction, though, is that, again, for the Ducks, a lot is going to need to go right for them to do that. But the teams ahead of them might do that job for them by just really struggling. So I could see the Ducks. It wouldn't be crazy to me if they get up there. It's just, again, not the likeliest scenario. The case for the Ducks is the same as always. If their veterans can get back to form, which isn't crazy, they're in those years where they can still hold some of their level, like Raquel, Henrique, Getzlaf even, I thought had a decent year last year. Progression from the youngsters. You're almost guaranteed to get better years from Terry, Zegras, Comtois. Maybe you get something from one of Steele and Jones. And then you're looking at a much more interesting forward group. I think the blue line, it's the thing everyone is assuming is going to be fine. And I'm willing to mostly believe that. I'm just a little concerned about what the third pairing is going to look like.
Yeah.
Because Jamie Drysdale, for all the potential he has, his numbers were atrocious last year.
I think there's a big caveat there, but yes.
But they were terrible. They
100% were, but I think the caveat is that his numbers playing the right side were significantly better than when he was playing the left side.
But it's all small samples, so it's kind of like
definitely. But I think if you are going to look at the small sample picture overall,
they were better, but they also weren't awesome. The point is, Jamie Drysdale hasn't given me the confidence to just say yes, he's going to be great next year or this year. I think that if he takes a step forward, right, if he becomes, let's just say, a decent NHL defenseman, third pairing guy, then that changes the complexion of this blue line, because you're not as reliant on that top 4 staying healthy. You've got another guy, and he's got the tools to do it. And the other question for me, of course, is who's going to be the 6th defenseman? Are we still pretending Jacob Larson is an adequate choice for this spot?
I would be so happy if here's the question. Here's the big question for the Ducks and their roster is that it's no longer a situation where Jacob Larson has that spot due to the fact that he's the only waiver exempt player or waiver eligible player on the blue line. We're now dealing with a situation where Brendan Gooley is waiver eligible. Josh Mahura, waiver eligible. All of these guys that are kind of in that same age range as a Jacob Larson that don't have the same experience as him, which is both a good and a bad thing, but all those guys are waiver eligible. So what do you do there? I mean, Axel Anderson is waiver exempt, so he's definitely not going to be pushing for that spot. But so it's Josh Mahura is 23 years old. He should be pushing for an NHL roster spot. Brendan Gooley is 24 years old. And Jacob Larson is 24 also. So it's this is a situation. I mean, there's also Cody Curran, which who knows what happens with him. But like essentially, where do you go from here? Because this is no longer a spot where Jacob Larson has played so many NHL games where he's the only waiver eligible player out of that group, and so he's locked into that spot. This is a situation where there's legit competition there, because I think even though Larson played so much, like, are you willing to lose a Josh Mahura for nothing because of Jacob Larson? I mean, they lost Christian Juice last year because of it. Are they going to lose another guy because of it this year?
Yeah, and the worst part with Larson is it just feels like he's getting worse every year. Like he's trending so far in the wrong direction. And yeah, there's other guys where they probably want to figure out, like, what does a Mahura or a Gouli look like in the NHL full time? I mean, I don't know if Gouli necessarily is ready for that opportunity yet, but like you talked about with the waiver restraints, they're going to have to make some tough choices. And maybe this is a bit overblown in the beginning of the season, just because of the way that waivers work, where you have this parade of guys going on waivers. And
yeah, but I think it's part of the conversation of if guys are if guys are on a parade on waivers, then Jacob Larson could be one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean,
like, do you get
Jacob Larson,
that's my point here.
Jacob Larson does not get claimed on waivers right now.
No, I think it's more likely that Josh Mahura gets claimed on waivers than Jacob Larson.
Yeah, because he's still got some of that prospect shine, and he is, I think, a better player. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing for the Ducks this is one of the bigger themes that I'm watching in this preseason, is how this blue line shakes out, how that third pairing specifically shakes out, because that's the weakness on the blue line. The top four, look, assuming that these guys stay healthy for any bit of time, I think that the blue line is going to be mostly a strength. The top four is going to be mostly a strength for the Ducks. Manson is a total wild card because his play has really suffered, but maybe an off season and some stability could see him with a bounce back. So if he just gets a little better, you've still got Fowler, Lindholm, Shattenkirk. That should be okay enough.
Do you think that we see Lindholm and Drysdale put together?
If that were to work, that would really open up the options for Dallas Eakins, because then you can move Shattenkirk to the second pairing with Fowler, or you could have him as basically a premium third pairing defenseman. So maybe that's something that they've thought about, but I think that I just don't know if Jamie Drysdale is ready for those minutes. If he's ready, because
I think a guy like Lindholm can help him out significantly and really protect him in that spot.
He will, and like by default, he will protect him. But those are still going to be very hard minutes. And Jamie Drysdale, it's just an unknown right now. I mean, I think he has the physical attributes to pull it off. There was actually an interesting stat yesterday from, I think it was from Corey Schneider's tracking data, or it may have been somewhere else, but that Drysdale actually got beat a lot on zone entries last year, one-on-one, which is not what you would expect from a guy who's that fleet of foot, which tells me it's a matter of angles, timing. The actual skating ability is not the reason he's struggling defending on the rush. It's the fact that he's a teenager playing in the NHL. And so I don't know how much that's going to change over 1 year. And if you put him on with Lindholm, you're just feeding him to the wolves. Like I'd be curious to see it. Maybe it could work, but I think he's better off on more of a sheltered third pairing role and just really accentuate what he does well. Put him in softer matchups and let him really get creative on those zone exits with using his feet. Yep.
Completely agreed. So anything else you want to touch on before we get into questions?
No, I think we covered it pretty extensively.
All right. So for those of you in the Twitch chat, for those of you watching on YouTube, yes, we do this. We post the video on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/crashthepond. Please like and subscribe to our videos there. It really helps out significantly. If you want to get into the comments, I'll get in there with you. Or on your favorite podcast services, we do a live stream of the show each and every time at twitch.tv/crashpond, where if you have Amazon Prime, you can support the show in a way that's completely free to you. With Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month. You do have to hit that subscribe button after 30 days. But by hitting that subscribe button, you help support the show. You get a special badge next to your name, and you get special emotes in the chat. And you can be just like Kempafu, who has resubbed for 25 months, and his message for resubbing was saying Silverberg is going to make the playoffs. Tony, does that mean that he's going to make the playoffs on the Ducks? Or
yeah, who is he going to make it on?
Like, Tony, where are you going with this? Chime in in the chat. And our good friend Jess, ScienceCat108, Beer League teammate, has gifted out 5 subs. Thank you so much, Jess. It's always Much
Yep.
appreciated whenever you do that. All right, so we got this question from that guy Bobski. Let me find it very quickly. I could have sworn there was it. Well, we got this one. I'll find the other one in a second. But Raquel's goatee said, would the Ducks add something of value on the waiver wire during the post-camp rush? Toronto has some interesting names in Adam Brooks, Pierre Engvall, and Joey Anderson that'll probably be available.
Yeah, I think what's hard for the Ducks is they have so many bodies. It's the same thing as last year. And so, yeah, it would be smart of them to take a swing on one of those guys and see what they can do in a, with a bigger opportunity. It's just the Ducks have so many players, especially up front, that I just don't really see them being super active on that front. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it's a slightly new regime with Jeff Solomon in the fold, so maybe that changes.
Yeah, I mean, the real question here is, how do they view the guys on the fourth line? How do they view the Derek? Like, is Derek Grant?
Well, that's the thing. Are those guys just going to be monoliths again, where they're just going to be in the lineup every single night, no matter what? I feel like that's
the question here.
Because that was the limiting factor for their creativity last year. Is you're just assuming, in terms of roster construction, that fourth line is completely baked in.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, maybe you have to assume that they might. I mean, they didn't re-sign Carter Rowney.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting. I could have thought for sure they were going to re-sign him. He seemed like someone they would lock in on re-signing to a 1 or 2 year deal, but he ended up going to Detroit instead, which I think it was an interesting place for him to go after the last couple of years. But DB Lowry 3507 says, question, which of the rookies has the best chance of making the opening night roster, whether it's Grew, Perreault, McTavish, Hunter Drew, somebody else? Who do you think has the best chance?
I don't know. I could see none of them making it just because of the way that the roster is constructed. I think that Mason McTavish is a bit behind the 8 ball now. He's been out for the last pretty much week.
It sounds as if Dallas Eakins is not.
He's getting close.
Is not viewing that as an issue though?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, that gives them time to see other guys.
Yes, agreed.
And so, but you're right. I'm not saying that writes him off. It's just if I'm handicapping this race, I could see Bo Grew again. That's the vanilla take because everyone's saying that, but there's been so much push, it feels like, behind him. And the Ducks, although they have a lot of centers, they don't have a lot of great centers. They don't have a lot of even good centers. And so if Bo Grew can continue to just maintain this narrative around him and play well, then there's a spot for him there. Because Sam Steele and Isaac Lundestrom, I think that they're going to be a part of the team, at least for the next year, but they're not locks to be, at least Steele, I don't think is going to be a lock to be in the lineup every night.
Yeah.
So, and if we assume as well that Derek Grant is not necessarily a lock anymore, then yeah, there's definitely a spot for Grew. But outside of that, I think Jacob Perreault absolutely needs some more development time. I just, from what I've seen of him, the skill is there, the high-end talent, the shooting is all there, but that's a guy I don't think he's ready for the NHL yet, and that's fine. You just don't want to mess that up. You don't want to rush him. And then McTavish, I just feel like we've seen so little of him. Maybe once he gets in the lineup and just the skill and the size and the NHL ready frame will all just come to light and he'll just take over. But I need to see it first. I need to see him in a preseason game before I can get behind him making the team.
Yeah, completely agreed. By the way, Kim Pafu, our good friend Tony, said Silverberg's going to be the one lifting the cup after the Ducks win it this year.
Wow, bold take.
I swear, Tony, I think that at this point you are a burner for Jacob Silverberg. You share the same birthday and all this stuff. You're definitely the burner. Account for him. Dalton Keys says, how many games will it take Getzlaf to record 18 points to hit the 1,000 point mark? And then who gets more points this season, Getzlaf or Perry?
Oh, it's going to be Getzlaf. I mean, Perry's going to be on what, the fourth or third line.
I'm going to say it's Perry because I think Perry's going to get power play time in Tampa Bay.
Is he?
I think.
Oh boy.
I would assume. Didn't he get power play time in Montreal?
He did, but
put him on the second unit in front of the net.
The Montreal power play is not quite the same.
No, but I would assume that the second power play unit put him in front of the net. Stamkos spoke really highly of Perry in his interview on 31 Thoughts.
So do I go Perry here? Yeah, I would go Getzlaf just because of the ice time, but the Tampa Bay multiplier effect here cannot be overlooked.
I'm going to say Perry. I think it's going to take Getzlaf 30 games to hit 18 points.
30? Yeah, that seems a little optimistic.
A little bit.
I would say like 34, 35. But yeah, 30 range.
Yeah. Z Hamster says Ricardo Kell looked decently confident with the puck on Saturday. If he and other veterans find form again, do we apologize to Bob Murray?
No.
And here's the thing. That's actually the best case scenario for the Ducks because these veterans are on the final year of their deal. And so if you're the Ducks, you are very happy about that happening. And I've written about it actually on the site about how Ricardo Kell, like, he's just kind of gone a bit unlucky. His 5-on-5 numbers have been fantastic still over the last couple of years. And it's just he's been a bit. And he went from playing with a peak Getzlaf to non-peak Getzlaf.
Yeah, I was gonna say his line mate talent is kind of eroded.
Yeah, and so if he's able to essentially put the puck in the back of the net a bunch, like the Ducks should not be looking to re-sign him. They should be looking to move him, and that's going to majorly boost his value.
Yeah, and I think that's why he's playing next to Zegras.
Yes.
So
apologize to Bob Murray? No, I think it's a best case scenario.
The correct choice would have still been to trade him with a year left.
Yes.
Because you would have gotten more for him. So, I mean, again, it was a very strange trade market last year with the pandemic and all that. But the correct move would have still been to trade him before now.
Yep.
So
Fire Carlisle says, do we see anyone traded before the start of the season to clear room for a younger guy like McTavish or Grew?
It could happen. I mean, it's not impossible. Those guys would have to play really well, but it's not impossible. I mean, the Ducks have made a point that no one is safe.
Yeah, and I mean, there was the chatter about Delorier being in trade rumors, so maybe that gets revisited.
He's been in multiple trade rumors at this point.
Yeah, like he was traded to Pittsburgh, basically.
Yeah. And then Bob Murray nixed it because he was mad that Elliot Friedman
got it.
Leaked it, yeah.
Lewis X209 said, if you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Wow, that's a hard one. Do you have an easy answer?
I saw this like 5 minutes ago, so I've been thinking about it. I'm going to go with Wolf Pup Session IPA, mainly because I love IPAs. And that beer is light enough where you can drink it on a hot day and still get very like cooled off from it and have multiple throughout the day. Basically, it's not going to murder you by having too many of them. It's going to be nice to you.
You can have multiple throughout the day. That's a very good choice. I'm tempted to go that route.
A session IPA is kind of the perfect choice for that.
Yeah, I feel like if I went with like a lager or something like that, I would end up missing the IPAs more. So I think I might go the same as you, actually.
We have Ken Pafu saying Beechwood Citraholic. Beechwood is a local Long Beach brewery. That guy Bobski saying, so happens it's Tuesday from the brewery is his choice.
Interesting. Okay.
So if anyone else has a beer in mind, throw it in. We'll throw it out.
Throw it in, throw it out.
Throw it out there. Throw it in, throw it out. That guy Bobski says, seeing the small improvements of the CA teams, will the Pacific Division be the powerhouse it was in the league that it was in the mid-2010s in the next 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I think that's totally in play. I mean, that's the thing is this season we kind of have to take this this more pessimistic stance on the division, but in the coming years, I think the Kings and the Ducks will like you'll start to see this standings prediction that we have kind of start to flip. I think Vegas is going to fade eventually. It's not too far away. Calgary seems like a ticking time bomb anyway. Even if they're going to be decent this year, I feel like that core could be blown up. And then after that, I mean, yeah, the Ducks are going to get significantly better. Trevor Zegras is going to become, I don't know how high he will get. That's maybe what will decide this, but he's going to get good enough to the point where they're going to be a playoff team, I think. And same thing with the Kings. So
let me ask you this.
Sharks are going to be bad for a while.
I think the Sharks could be the best out of those three this year. I think they're going to be the worst off out of those three for a long time.
Yeah, like being the best of the three this year is not what you want.
Yeah. Big Gus IPA is what Raquel's goatee. Just saying it's good. It's a step up from Session, but is light from Ballast Point. So worth trying. One thing that I haven't put too much thought into, and I think that's honestly the perfect thing to bring up on the show. That is something that pops in my head to really kind of talk it out. I mean, that's what this is about. But is the Eichel situation honestly the perfect situation for the Ducks right now? In the sense of he won't play for half this year probably.
Yeah, it is. It's good for the Ducks because it wouldn't mess up the tanking.
And if you can do it for guys that are on the roster currently, you are taking away from your roster currently without adding to it. So if you are really all in on the rebuild and all about this upcoming draft, you're adding a talented player for the upcoming seasons. You are able to be bad for the start of the year. And honestly, once Eichel comes back at the end of the year, you're able to build momentum and build the fan base with him on the ice. And it's almost like you have a brand new team for the second half of the year, and you've already gotten yourself low enough in the points that you've almost kind of locked yourself into a great draft position and really can push yourself into building momentum into next year. I'm talking myself into this being a great
this
situation.
Hypothetical.
It's fantastic.
This hypothetical. This is like best case scenario.
I know.
I mean, the thing that's working out for the Ducks right now with Eichel is that market, they're just never going to get what they could have gotten in earlier in the summer.
Yeah.
Like they've royally blundered his trade value. Like what's it going to take? What's going to be the final price tag on Jack Eichel when it's all said and done? What's your prediction?
My prediction is they're going to get a roster player, a first, and a good prospect.
Yeah, it's going to be less than what you would have thought it would have been like a year ago, a few months ago. But I feel like as soon as the draft passed and you started hearing more about the agent arguing with the franchise, the stuff about the surgery, like that's when that ship completely sailed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good for the Ducks.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot less to get them.
Like I think maybe you do it for the.
I still think the Golden Knights are going to get them.
I don't think so.
Peyton Krebs.
I don't think so. All right. Let's see. Z Hamster said, should the Ducks burn a year off of McTavish's ELC this year, even next year?
I'm always of the opinion that stuff doesn't matter nearly as much as people think. I think for McTavish, though, and the way that the Ducks timeline is, it does actually matter a little bit just because when they're going to be good again, it'd be nice to have a guy that you're paying a lot less. So yeah. I could see it both ways.
Yeah, that guy Bobski says Jake needs a new podcast, random thoughts and brews, random takes while drinking craft beer. I should make mention, this is not a beer.
Seltzer.
No, it's not a seltzer either.
Oh, my apologies.
It is a cocktail.
Wow. Mai Tai.
It's a 12.5% Mai Tai.
Wow.
It's rum.
That's why we're getting the insane hypotheticals.
Hey.
That's how you get to Edmonton at number 2.
I'm only halfway done with this. This thing's they're delicious though.
That's how you get to Edmonton at 2. Mai Tai and rum. Yeah.
Well, a Mai Tai is rum.
Yeah,
yes.
I know that's a bad statement.
A bit redundant.
Very redundant.
Anything else?
No, I mean, excited for the season. It's kind of it roared back into life with all the updates and things like that, and now it feels like we're just waiting for it to unfold. Now there's a bit of a slowdown almost.
Yeah, let me ask you this. You and I were discussing this. Are you going to the game on Wednesday?
I plan to, yes.
Okay. So for anyone there, I will be there. Felix will be there. Hit us up. We'll probably do a meetup of some sort or something along those lines.
Yeah.
We typically, for anyone that doesn't know, that's new to listening to this or doesn't have a Twitter, typically what will happen, follow me on Twitter. If I'm at a game, I'll tweet something out and we'll meet up by the team store in that area between the team store and I don't know what it's called now, during the first intermission. So
say hi to us.
Yep. Come say hi if you want to meet up, talk some hockey, everything like that. So
I feel coerced into going to these games because it's the only way I can actually see what's going on.
It's really ruining our watch along plans.
Yeah. There's no actual televised stream. That's a bit of a problem.
I should just stream the game onto Patreon, and that's the watch along.
Just stand there the entire game with your iPhone and it plugged into a portable charger.
Yeah, exactly.
And just that would, if you could pull that off without a security guard asking you what the hell is going on, I would be impressed.
Well, challenge accepted.
They did that for the for the inter squad game this weekend where they did a little broadcast.
It's like
on
a
their
Periscope
Twitter
stream.
Yeah, so why not just do it for the game?
I think the issue with the game is that there's broadcasting rights, and I think that's what they've always said.
No, yeah, I'm sure there's some reason. Like these things don't just happen for nothing, but it would just be nice to watch from the comfort of my computer.
Yep.
As opposed to driving out there. But it'll be fun.
Cheap
so
tickets,
I'm not
fun
complaining.
time, good beers.
Yeah, I have an extra ticket. So just putting it out there. Putting it out there.
To the people listening, badger Felix for the extra ticket.
Badger me. I won't be selling it at face value though. It's going to go up. So just be prepared.
Wow.
Wow.
I was expecting that to just be given away.
Totally kidding.
We should just give that away to a patron.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Okay.
Your decision.
That's why you become a patron, to benefit from when I end up getting cold feet from going to the game. Okay. Should we get out of here?
We probably should.
Yeah, I think it's time. Okay, well, everybody, thanks for listening today. The season is fast approaching, and that means that the podcast is going to be just getting back into form, and we need your support. Here's a few ways that you can do it. The biggest one is our Patreon page, patreon.com/crashthepond. I'm pretty sure we've referenced it at least a handful of times on this show. There's 3 different levels on the Patreon. There's for $1 a month, where you can join our Discord chat, patrons only. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet our merry band of friends, where we just talk Ducks, talk hockey.
Our band of misfits.
Yeah.
You know what's something I was randomly like thinking about? Sorry, this is just how this episode's going. It's the Mai Tai. It's crazy how that Discord channel has evolved, because I think it was like
there's always something going on in
pre-pandemic. It was a little bit mellow, and it was one of those things where I think you and I both were thinking like, this is really cool, but it wasn't like super active. And I feel like around the pandemic was when it really kind of started going from just being this kind of channel to being a community. And it truly is a community of people that are all absolutely amazing people. I mean, that guy Bobski, who's in the Discord or in the Twitch chat right now, is in there a bunch. Zenez, I think you're in there also. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a whole lot of people in that Discord that are great people that I've personally met, that you've personally met, and have formed really good relationships with. So if you kind of want to be a part of that, it's a great group of people, great place to talk hockey, and there's a whole wide varying set of opinions in there about the Ducks. So
yeah, it's not an echo chamber.
No,
it's not. You're not just getting us to.
There we
talk.
go.
We talk the least, if anything.
Yeah, Zenez is Can Bargain Bob on Discord. So that's who he is.
Yep. So that's for $1 a month. Now for $5, you also get 2 bonus episodes. We talked about it off the top. We'll be doing our predictions for every division in the league, and maybe we'll even allow ourselves to revise our Pacific standings by then. But so if you enjoyed what you heard with our Pacific predictions,
tomorrow,
you're gonna get all of that. No, I thought we were doing. Oh, I guess it is tomorrow. Yeah. Anyway, mine is going to a million different places. We're gonna do that for the rest of the league. So
My Time Mondays,
Atlantic, Metropolitan, Central. You're gonna get it all. Will I pick the Canadians to make the playoffs? That is the big question here. That is the big question.
There's the suspense for everyone.
My contrarian
Tune in for that.
My contrarian takes carried me through the playoffs last year with the Habs, but I don't know. Looking at that roster. So yeah, check that out. And it's not always going to be league wide. We'll sometimes go deeper into the Ducks, different themes that we'll look at with the Ducks. We've done prospect rankings on there. That's for $5. For $15 during the season, we do 2 watch-alongs every month. We did one for the rookie face-off earlier this month, where we will basically go live and give you a commentary stream while you watch the game. So we'll be doing that for 2 Ducks games a month, and that's a lot of fun. You get to hear us talk about different stats as the game is happening. We look more at matchups, deployment, things like that, a little bit more detail-oriented than what you might get on a traditional broadcast, but also you get a lot of, let's just call it banter. I don't know, extracurricular.
The intermissions.
Yeah, they can get a little crazy. So check that out. That's for $15 a month. And that's all at patreon.com/crashthepond. Now, if you don't want to pledge any money, I get it. I think that's the wrong take. But if you're not going to, there's still plenty of ways to support us. So if you go to Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a review and a rating. And those do go a long way as well. And it only takes a couple minutes tops. And if you do leave us a review, we will read it on the show. Those are always fun to get through. I feel like people are competing now for like what's going to be the most creative, colorful review that we get. So we've had some haikus in the past.
We've had rhymes.
We've had rhymes. So let's see what you guys have. And at this point, I don't even know if it's a Crash the Pond review without a mention of my bad food takes. So something else to keep in mind there. And so that's all on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, We're on YouTube, so Jake will post the actual Twitch stream video to YouTube, so you can see the graphs we pull up. You can see Jake's cat, Salem, crawling through the screen every now and again.
She hasn't been in here today. I heard her meowing wanting to come in, but she made she made the decision to not be in here, so she's now not in here.
Harsh. Bad cat owner.
Salem did not want to be in on My Time Monday. Let's go with that.
I'm pretty sure she wants to if she's
By the way,
outside the door meowing.
Zena's8 made the suggestion, is My Time Monday the new bit for the season? Oh, man.
Could be.
We'll see.
I mean, we will be recording on Mondays until further notice.
Yes.
So yeah, and then also check out our website, crashthepond.com. Oh, I was going to say, on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications. The YouTube comments are always fun. There's always we've got some regulars who will, I love the feedback that we get on there. It's very detailed.
Mm-hmm.
People hold us accountable in the YouTube comments. And then, yeah, check out our website, crashthepond.com. We've got articles going up there, and that's at Crash the Pond on Twitter. Also on Facebook. Jake is on Twitter at ReindeerGames91, and I am on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. So that's going to do it for our show tonight, guys. That was, I'm surprised we got through this, Jake. I don't know. The Mai Tide really started affecting you midway through, I would say.
No, I'm fine. I've been fine.
Totally kidding. Well, everybody have a great week, and we will talk to you next Monday.
Bye.